Today is no different. We will be giving you so much. Just sit tight. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. I don't know, for some reason this week is just chilly to the bone. I'm still trying to get a hold of it, and I'm hoping that by the time it clocks midday today, I'll have got a hold of it. But I'm hoping that you, my dearest viewer, is feeling way better. I can assure you this week is not going to be any different from last week in terms of the weather. So please, I will not stop reminding you, carry something to warm you up. As someone said, Uganda weather or Kampala weather is bipolar, and I tend to agree with the same, because one moment it's shining and the next it's actually very cold. So please do take note. Otherwise, welcome to the show.
Well, yesterday was quite an eventful day, and by eventful, I'm speaking traffic jam. Many roads seemed to be closed off yesterday, so there was, for lack of a better word, katogo everywhere. I remember just driving out of Nile Avenue, UBC here at Nile Avenue. I was stuck in the same position for over 50 minutes, and the situation was no different with people who are in industrial area, others who decided to use Mukwano Road despite warnings that it had been closed off. But now I will ask someone that goes through Mukwano Road sometimes and see if his fate has been different this morning. Good morning, Mr. Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. I must say I'm in love with your, is it top? Is it blouse? Is it coat? Is it, you know, for us, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
One thing I can identify, there's a bit of zebra.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to believe so. And I don't know if this is the animal print I hear. You know,
animal print.
It's animal print.
Yes.
Yes, got it. I'm a bit modern then. Well, good morning, our viewers, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely morning. At least it didn't rain where I stay, and all the way to work it didn't rain, though there's a lot of road construction happening.
Yes.
And this is causing jam. But also KCCA, Madam Dorothy Kisaka, there is again so much breaking of these shelters along the roadside. I know we are going to be hosting something quite big as a country, but I don't think it should be that much that we need to clean up to the extent of breaking these kiosks and along the road because we're having visitors. Well,
but according to the Kampala plan, kiosks are even supposed to be there. Or you're talking about the shelters where people usually sit as they wait for taxis?
Not wait for taxis. These small businesses around Machindie, even in Kampala, some of they are breaking them in anticipation that they are preparing for a big summit that is going to be happening in Kampala.
But Chirabo, no. Remember when, I think it was early this year or sometime last year, it was last year when KCCA had a project where they took all kiosks off the streets, and they said that they were there illegally. Also, looking at it this way, remember that when these people are, let's say, on the street, in most cases, they are probably in front of buildings. And in these buildings, people are paying taxes and rent, okay? And business ends up going to these small businesses. For instance, look at it this way. Someone has a mobile money kiosk outside your building, but inside the building, there is someone paying rent and they have the same business. And this is what KCCA usually looks at and is like, you know what? If you want to carry out business in the city, rent a space inside the building.
Now, was it Maria Antoinette who once said, if they can't afford bread,
let them buy cakes.
Let them eat cake.
Eat cake.
And history repeats itself. I have one Maria Antoinette with me this morning.
No.
In that aspect.
I'm trying
because who wouldn't want to rent a shop anyway? And would prefer to go for a kiosk. It definitely shows that, you know, I'm very concerned, you know, during this time, there's high level of criminality.
Yes.
People want to make ends meet to go in the village and show off, or to go in the village and actually have good time with their families. Now, most of the times, our technocrats do not look at the economic status of these lower people when they are coming out with some policies, or they don't program them very well for them to carry out their implementation?
I think they do. Look at it
And-
this way, and I would like Jerome Paul to weigh in here. He's the guy in business. But look at it this way. Have you thought about the Ugandan that is paying rent in a shop, and business goes to someone that is in a kiosk just outside his shop? Also, I would like to ask, there are markets for small businesses, okay? Those are the concentration areas where if you can't afford to pay for a shop, for a space in a building, you can pay for a stall in a market. You're not supposed to be on the street
would a mobile money guy go to a
because get a
Why would a
corridor or
person who was
something. Jerome
chicken
Paul,
around
first of all, good morning.
a cobra?
Good morning, Monica.
Yes.
You see, there is also another, another twist to this. Most of the businesses currently that are operating out of arcades, for example, are owned by people who are actually in the arcades. It's more like a subsidiary for them. What they do is they have someone they employ out of the arcade to bring in customers. I don't know if you've happened to go to some of the arcades downtown whereby someone has goods on display, but ideally they are not selling the goods you're seeing there. So this person actually comes out to tell you, you know what, let's move into the arcade inside. And the worst part is there are certain businesses that do not need to even be in arcades, because you will not expect someone to move to 4 floors looking for clothes.
Why
Well,
not?
they can actually access them from somewhere
But
else.
people move 4
However
floors in
much-
Gazaland and Galilaya
Yeah, it's
to
very
look for
true.
clothes.
It is very true. But the funny twist about it is that in the business world, there is no such a thing like fairness. And there's no such a thing like feeling pity for someone. Once you start feeling pity and bringing in humanity, you're bound to create losses for yourself.
Okay, I get that, but
And-
have we looked at where KCCA is coming from? Because there is part organization of the city or cleanliness of the city,
Which I
but there
should
is
say they've
also
already failed at it. Because
And they're
if you look
trying.
at the roadmap of how they're pushing for the city to get organized, they already failed. Theirs is always to, come and create fear amongst the traders, carry their goods, put them on the trucks and run away. So if someone already has something else, they will still come back and put it. So
Now there is a wave of, sorry to interject, there is a wave I'm seeing, recently I think government gave KCCA some good money to work on the roads. There's a summit that is coming up. But even before, we've seen in some of these divisions, the 5 divisions that make Kampala, progress in the roads and beautification and all that. The first has been enforcement of the ordinary person of places where they have been making ends to meet by breaking, telling them move away from the road, do this, and sometimes elements of corruption. Later kuongerereyo mu office so that your particular thing can stay. And I find this, when you're expecting a visitor and then the visitor is the source why you're going to leave your room to sleep down because there's a visitor coming, then
it shows lack of preparation,
Lack of
because
preparation.
you know that
and I wouldn't be happy for these visitors if I've left my room because you're coming.
That's true, because if you know that you will host something, you don't need to destabilize the people that are in the home, so for the visitors to feel at home. You need to plan well enough to ensure that the visitors are comfortable, but also your people that live with you are comfortable. So KCCA, we don't know what you're doing, but for me, I'm on your side as far as clearing kiosks from the streets are concerned, because in as much as I understand that everyone needs to make some money, I also want to see my city clean and organized. And if we can do that, you have my support. But Chirabo has and Jerome Paul have another perspective to this, and we'll get into that. For now, let's get into the news.
And we'll begin with the First Lady, who has urged Dr. Sempewa to return home and train the young ones. Now, the First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, requested Dr. Sempewa Dennis, formerly of the Limit X Gospel Group, to come back home and train the young generation. The First Lady met with Dr. Dennis Sempewa, who called on her at State House Nakasero to share with her how he utilizes the various qualifications he attained after the end of Limit X to save Uganda's young generation. Dr. Dennis Sempewa is one of the trio Ugandan artists who founded the Limit X group music that was very successful and gained a lot of fame in the 90s. The First Lady said that it is interesting to hear how the former Limit X singer used the time after disbanding of the group to upgrade. She said that Uganda needs him back and to do something to help young generation in these times when there is a lot of distortions and when there's a lot of extortions and distortions and threat to Uganda's values and culture.
Now, speaking matters security, police has arrested Nabakoza Farida for child trafficking and recruitment of juveniles into terror activities. Nabakoza was registering young people from refugee camps and transporting them to DR Congo. This was during the police weekly briefing in Naguru. The 37-year-old suspect, Farida Nabakoza, is a resident of Bulenga and a bus conductor attached to baby coaches. She is accused of registering young people from refugee camps, especially in Nachivale, transporting them to Congo to join terror activities. The recruited juveniles are inducted into Twiraneho, a rebel group based in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Security has confirmed several remnants of ADF trying to create small cells for fresh recruitments. Meanwhile, in Impiji, Katonga region, police impounded stolen elements of electricity infrastructure being ferried to the scrap market, and culprits were arrested.
Now, in education, despite the heavy rains, this did not stop school heads from Kampala Central and Rubaga Division from heading to Old Kampala Police Station to get the UACE examinations, which started yesterday. Monday morning, students prepared for their exams after heavy rains, and they ensured they were ready to start their exams. UNEB representative Betty Narukenge briefed them on the procedures. They were then given envelopes containing the papers.
And moving on to the wedding that is coming along in the kingdom of Busoga. The father to the Inebantu of Busoga, Jovia Motesi, Stanley Bayole, has noted with concern that the negative speculations against his daughter will not deter him from preparing for the royal wedding of his daughter. Bayole told UBC from his home in Mayuge district that all is uncalled for and orchestrated by ill-hearted subjects. He reveals that the Inebantu, who is currently out of the country, will return for the 18th November 2023 wedding. Christ Cathedral Bugembe is in advanced preparations for the first royal wedding of the Chabazinga. Well, we wish the people of Busoga and their king a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Now let's move on to international news.
Internationally, thousands could be trapped inside Gaza's largest hospital due to nearby fighting, while officials have warned of rotting bodies piling up there. Al-Shifa Hospital, which is also tackling power cuts and a lack of fuel, is nearly a cemetery, the World Health Organization has warned. The hospital's manager said it was under a blockade and that dogs had started eating corpses. The area around the hospital has seen intense fighting in the recent days. US President Joe Biden said he hoped to see less intrusive action at the hospital, which he said must be protected. Gaza City has seen an intensification of fighting between Israeli and Hamas forces in the recent days, much of which has been taking place in streets close to the hospital. There have been reports of tanks and armored vehicles being within meters of the hospital gate. Away from that, King Charles is celebrating his 75th birthday with a business-as-usual approach and the launch of a project to help people facing food poverty. But it's understood that he will be getting a birthday greeting by transatlantic phone call from his youngest son, Prince Harry. The King's birthday plans will also see him hosting a reception for NHS nurses and midwives. Ceremonial gun salutes will mark the day, including at the Tower of London, public service rather than glitzy partying is being emphasized in the King's birthday engagements, although it is expected that there will be a private dinner for close family and friends. Prince Harry will not be there, but well-placed sources say that the US-based Duke will be putting in a birthday phone call to his father. The plans for a phone message might be seen as an olive branch after claims that there had been no contact with Prince Harry about the birthday plans. Moving on, armed attackers tied up at least 19 villagers and killed them with machetes and other weapons in a raid in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo late on Sunday, a civil society leader said. Other villagers fled but might have drowned as they tried to cross the Lamia River into Uganda, Maurice Mabele Musaidi told an agency. There are still people missing, he said. Musaidi and a spokesperson of the Democratic Republic of Congo Army said the attack in Beni Territory's Watalinga chiefdom was carried out by the Allied Democratic Forces, an armed group based in the eastern DRC that has pledged allegiance to ISIS, and the ADF was formed in Uganda in the 1990s before moving over to the border and has been blamed for thousands of killings in the last decade across both countries. Now, speaking matters climate, human-driven climate change is increasingly shaping the Earth's living environments. Rising temperatures, rapid shifts in rainfall and seasonality, and ocean acidification are presenting altered environments to many animal species. How do animals adjust to these new, often extreme conditions? Animal nervous systems play a central role in both enabling and limiting how they respond to changing climates. As a biologist and neuroscientist, two of my main research interests involve understanding how animals accommodate temperature extremes and identifying the forces that shape the structure and function of animal nervous systems, especially brains. The intersection of these interests led me to explore the effects of climate on nervous systems and how animals will likely respond to rapidly shifting environments. That is it for climate news and also what is happening across the world.
And coming back from the news on the international scene and around, basically around Africa and the international scene, we now get into the press review.
All right, now as we get into the press review, the local dailies, the New Vision with the headline: Somalis plead over UPDF withdrawal as drawdown roadmap. Drawdown roadmap does not suit reality on the ground, according to the Somalis. Now, also opportunities. President Museveni was Abu Dhabi investors. As in the other news, River Kafu flooding takes toll on farmers, as the ADF chief charged over murder of tourists. Now also in court, still at the front page of the New Vision, Magara suspects given last chance as the Uganda Revenue Authority recovers 256 billion Ugandan shillings through tax penalties. Now in oil supply as well, second fuel carrier ship has been launched. That is with the New Vision today. Now, also looking at what is making headlines at the front pages of the Daily Monitor today. Savers fake a death to get NSSF money. Interesting report. Then in the other news, Nsenene, should we count losses or keep our hopes alive? A report by the Daily Monitor. Then arrested at Nyege Nyege Festival, 45 of those were arrested. Now also Congolese refugees flood Ugandan border. There's a pictorial of those crossing from the DRC to Uganda. And in terrorism, suspect in Queen Elizabeth Park shooting charged in court. Then in the other news, smooth start to Senior 6 examinations, as in the Rainbow magazine, Uganda's first table tennis world champ. Who is that? Read more about him in the Daily Monitor today.
Thank you, Jerome Paul Sonko, for that update as far as what is happening in the newspapers this morning. I hope you can be able to get yourself a copy and get the details of some of the stories that Jerome Paul has shared with us. With that being said, we will take a short break. We'll leave you with Chris Brown. Please don't judge me. Please stay tuned because we are still going with you up until 9 a.m. But also, we have something new, something amazing, something great, something that is going to change the face of Good Morning Uganda. And we'd like for you to be a part of that. What is it? Do you want to find out? Please stay with us.
I don't wanna go there. We should never go there. Damn. Why you wanna go there? I guess I gotta go there. You're hearing rumors about me, and you can't stomach the thought of someone touching my body when you're so close to my heart. I won't deny what they're saying because most of it is true, but it was all before I fell for you. So please, babe, so please don't judge me, and I won't judge you. 'Cause it can get ugly before it gets beautiful. Please don't judge me, and I won't judge you. And if you love me, then let it be beautiful. 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 Everything I say right now, it's gonna be used in another fight. And I've been through this so many times. Can we change the subject? You're gonna start asking me questions like, was she attractive? Was she an actress? Maybe the fact is, you're hearing rumors about me, and saw some pictures online saying they got you so angry, making you wish you were right. Before we start talking crazy, saying some things will revert, can we just slow it down and rest? We said, so please don't judge me, and I won't judge you. 'Cause it can get ugly before it gets beautiful. Please don't judge me, and I won't judge you. And if you love me, then let it be beautiful.
Chris, wait! I know it's your last minute. People are saying it's a suicide mission. Why are you doing this?
I'm doing a service for my country and my planet. And if that means saving the people I love and I care about, then that's what I do.
Chris, wait! Chris!
Warnings that it had been closed off. But now I will ask someone that goes through Mukwano Road sometimes and see if his fate has been different this morning. Good morning, Mr. Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. I must say I'm in love with your, is it top? Is it blouse? Is it coat? Is it, you know, for us, whatever it is. I
Whatever
just love,
it is.
One thing I can identify, there's a bit of zebra.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to believe so. And I don't know if this is the animal print I hear. You know, ladies
animal
have...
print.
It's animal print.
Yes.
Yes, got it. I'm a bit modern then. Well, good morning, our viewers, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely morning. At least it didn't rain where I stay, and all the way to work, it didn't rain. Though there's a lot of road construction happening,
Yes.
and this is causing jam. But also, KCCA, Madam Dorothy Kisaka, there is again so much breaking of these shelters along the roadside. I know we are going to be hosting something quite big as a country, but I don't think it should be that much that we need to clean up to the extent of breaking these kiosks.
Pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Welcome back to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. We are appreciative of you for starting your morning with us every single day from Monday to Friday. We do not take that for granted. So welcome. And if you're joining us for the very first time, again, welcome. You're not going to be bored because we are going to have a deep conversation regarding the medical sector in the country. There is a new report that says that Uganda is in deficit, 96% deficit of medical specialists. And we know that Uganda is still among the countries that actually have the best products in the medical fraternity. When I say products, I mean universities churn out some of the best medical students in East Africa. So how come we have a 96% 96% deficit of medical specialists. Why are we in this position? Now, when you look at that, there are reports that show that we have a huge brain drain on our hands in the medical fraternity. Many doctors get trained here, get the experience from here, but when it comes to working, they now go and offer their services to different countries. There are reasons for this, of course, because when you speak to medical personnel, especially those that are operating outside the country, they'll give you many reasons, from pay to lack of equipment and many more. But we are going to get deeper into this conversation to find out why is it that for a country that is known as one of the best places to train medical doctors in East Africa, we are actually still the country that has a 96% deficit in specialists. And when we say specialists, we mean, for instance, pediatrics. Those are the ones that are trained to handle children. And then we have obstetricians that handle ladies' issues, be it reproductive health and whatnot, giving birth and many more. Those are obstetricians. But also we have cardiosurgeons that work with the issues of the heart. We have neurosurgeons that work with the issues of the brain, and so many more. Imagine there are people who don't even know that brain surgery can actually be done in Uganda, because they think we do not have the specialists to do that. We do. We have them. As a matter of fact, I've read some stories of people I know or people I've seen in the media that have had successful brain surgeries in local hospitals here, done by Ugandan doctors, not foreign doctors that are operating in local hospitals. No, Ugandan doctors. But the reason why many people think that is because in most cases, the specialists that would do those complicated surgeries are out of the country. So why do we have that? That is what we are looking at today, and would like for you to join this conversation. I'm going to share our WhatsApp number right now, but I will also share it later on, and it is 0709602592. You can join the conversation even on the X app through the hashtag UBCGMU. Now, coming back to the team, I'll start with Jerome Paul. Why? To begin with, why do we have extensive brain drain in the medical fraternity?
Well, first of all, there's an element of low pay, and then there's also an element of the quality of health facilities we do have in this country as well. That is actually contributing greatly to the level of brain drain that has actually led to the fact that we've seen medical doctors leaving this country, or medical specialists leaving this country to go for further, let's say to go to other countries that will appreciate them. And when you put it into proper context, there was a time I was following a conversation on social media on the X app, whereby there was a certain Ugandan doctor who shared and said the consultancy fee in Uganda today is around 50,000 Ugandan shillings.
That's true.
And when you look at that, that is roughly $12 US. Let's say 10 to 11 US dollars, roughly there. So you're playing around the same. And when you look at some of the other countries, you will realize that the lowest, according to some doctors on the African continent, they were actually sharing and saying that the lowest amount of money for consultancy fee is around 50 US dollars. So if it's 50 US dollars, that is approximately 180,000 Ugandan shillings, or more, 180 or 185, around the same. And in most cases, most of the hospitals across Africa charge around 100 US dollars. Now, why do I bring in this? You get to realize that even the quality of our medical situation is not supportive of our specialists in a way. Because if consultancy fee is around 20,000 Ugandan shillings or 50, it's going to be very difficult for this doctor to earn his worth. If you're to look at the competition on the market, we've seen many doctors who have actually moved out, or who have actually started from abroad, and they have actually studied various. I'm not so good with the pronunciation of some of these names or of these titles, like you've actually been doing. But when you look at some of these particular special case doctors, you realize some of them are specialized to do, let's say, they are surgeons, others are maybe technically trained, or, are actually so specific, and they deal with bones, or they do, because it's a wide scope really. But when you see most of them who go out to study, or whether it's scholarships or the like, once they reach the other side, they understand the job market, or they understand the market and how much their profession pays, and how much, and how many of the benefits they get. Talk of the allowances, talk of working in shifts, talk about, other related, and also the available health facilities in the other countries, which makes them even more focused on doing the same. And if we are to actually put it into the same bracket here, from the patient's perspective, if you're a patient and you're moving to a hospital, there are lots of things that you look at before you even pay a given amount of money. That is why we have private hospitals that continue to have different people flooding, regardless of how expensive they are, because Ugandans do know the quality of medication that is actually going to be received, or that they're actually going to be given. So when you look at the situation of comparison between our state of health facilities and the health sector, plus what we have away from Uganda, it creates a very big room it actually creates room for desire to go and explore elsewhere. And we've also seen situations where we have sick Ugandans or even sick government officials, and we are always resorting to sending them either to Aga Khan in Nairobi, or we are sending them to the United States, India per se, or even in Europe. So when you look at some of these particular factors, you get to realize that there is also heavy workload in Uganda, whereby a doctor who is not earning even more than 2 million Ugandan shillings is overworked in situations, whether it's a private hospital or it's a government hospital. They're overworked according to how much they're earning. So you expect, you don't expect that kind of person to feel happy to work in such a situation. So they would rather go out where situations are better, upgrade to, let's say, their studies and do the like. Even skilling becomes very easier for them while they're away from here. And when you also look at the paycheck that they are definitely going to receive at the end of it all, you realize most of them would rather move out than stay in the country. So when you look at it, it is kind of a situation that is so much of how our health system or sector is structured. You can as well also look at the fact that we do have inadequate, machinery for certain, for certain operations per se in Uganda today, whereby it's only a few hospitals that are even private that can access or that have given facilities that if you want to treat cancer, you will actually have to look out for very few. If you are to, let's say, have an heart problem, we've seen many people actually rushing out to India. It is of recent that Mulago is actually upgrading to meet up to such standards as well. So when you look at some of these situations, someone who specialized in a given duty that is in the line of health will definitely feel like Uganda isn't the right place for them to be, and then they would actually choose options of other African countries or even go in Europe. So when you look at that, I think it is why we are having this back and forth situations of seeing Ugandans rushing out of the country for greener pastures, doctors in this perspective.
Okay, now that we know that poor pay is mainly the reason why Ugandan doctors decide to export their skill to countries that can compensate them favorably. First of all, do we know how much Ugandan doctors earn, from just intern doctors to general doctors to specialists?
Let's look at the private sector.
Let's first look at what government pays them, because the private sector, it's a free economy, a free market economy where everyone will pay according to what they can afford. But what does the government pay these medical personnel? We know that specialists are earning 12 million, that their salaries were increased from 6 to 12. Then, but how much is an intern doctor earning? Because we have also had strikes because they were striking about poor pay, and even general doctors also were striking regarding the same, and even nurses themselves. So how much are they earning?
You know, when you talk about how specialists are earning 12 million from the 6 million that they were earning, it also shows you how, before even going to how much the other doctors are earning, for example, it also shows you how much we were actually, how low we were paying these people.
Yes.
Because when you look at 12 million Ugandan shillings and you're paying it to a medical specialist, I want to believe a medical specialist is someone who has actually, you know, done more, you know, they've actually invested a lot even in their education.
That's true, because
so,
when you're looking, for instance, imagine a neurosurgeon that has done plenty of studying, because they even go back, they lots of time spent on writing papers and, you know, to be published in journals and whatnot, and here you are paying them $12 million. And we all know one of the most expensive surgeries out there is brain surgery. So imagine someone that is going to do something that extensive earning 12 million shillings.
And then also when you look at most of the other doctors are earning in a region of 3 million Ugandan shillings, and then extensively to the private sector is where some of them earn 5 million. But also with the 3 million Ugandan shillings, not all are in that category of earning the same. So we also have those who are beginning earning 1.5 million Ugandan shillings. So when you look at that particular amount of money, it becomes really low for the kind of workload that these doctors are subjected to.
But it was also, like you said, it was also structured in a way that different doctors were earning, the money was increased differently. A dentist is not earning the same as a midwife and a general doctor. So we saw dentists and doctors being paid who are being paid they're getting paid 2.5 million, pharmacists 2 million, nurses and midwives 1.5, and these are some of the increments that were there. But initially, if you do remember, these interns were being paid 800,000, which was also not coming in on time. And when you remember very well, also around 2021 and 2022, all the strikes that were happening under the Uganda Medical Council, they were literally rooted on the fact that they were not being paid well, and also especially the interns naming that they were doing more work than some of these specialist doctors.
And now the nurses, the nursing officers, the senior nursing officers, this year when government was actually upgrading, they put them at 4.6 million Ugandan shillings. Then the other nurses at 4.4. So the senior nursing officers, 4.6 million. Then we have the other, that is the nurses earning, the nursing officers earning 4.4, walking away with that, according to the new
structure, the new salary structure. Chantal, you mentioned something about interns, and before we go, we move on, someone out there may be saying, but 800,000 for an intern is fair, because interns in most organizations are not paid. Please help us understand how a medical intern is different from, let's say, a journalism intern.
You know, the beauty with these guys is they will actually go through medical school and finish their 4 years, then do internship. That is after medical school is done. So that means this person is close to being fully a doctor.
Actually, they are doctors. They
are, and now they are practicing what they learned. So you are dealing with a doctor. That's why the complaints that came in from the interns, the complaints were saying most of the doctors do not even show up. They leave the work for the interns. So the interns do the donkey work. They are overworked. and yet they're being paid less, yet they have all these qualifications. So that is why a medical intern is going to earn more money than a journalist intern, because as a journalist, you're going to do your internship either after first year or after second year, depending on the university you go to or institute. So, and then these guys will go for internship after all the years are done. You cannot go when you're half-baked or when you know, because you're in a hospital. Every case is supposed to be handled. You don't get to choose which one you can handle and which one you cannot, unless if you have decided that you're going to major into something, it all starts as being a general doctor. So that is why medical interns are different from the other interns that we see around that are paid or even not paid when they're doing internships.
They were actually seeking for increment of around 2.5 million Ugandan shillings. That is the intern doctors, simply because of the fact that they are doing a lot of work. So it actually takes us back to the other issue of the workload. The reason as to why we see the other doctors, you know, feeling relaxed once the interns are deployed is because they realize they have too much on their desk. So they would rather sit down and see, you know, the young enthusiastic, you know, lads who are actually coming in to continue doing the same. Because these doctors feel like, for the last 10 years I've been overworked, I'm not earning more, then let me just look for various options. That is why even in medical, you realize in the health, let's say in public hospitals, you'll find that we have so many medical interns on duty than the actual doctors who have actually, they're all doctors rather, but let's say the senior doctors, exactly, even the specialists as well.
The senior doctors are supposed to supervise.
Very true. So,
but now we actually, right here, referring to what Chantal said earlier, we have had cases of apparently specialists turning up to government hospitals, let's say outside Kampala, and a specialist is turning up for work 3 days in a month, and they have interns they're supposed to supervise, because you are now giving them hands-on skills so that they can now go out there and you know, treat people. But now they have to write a patient's condition and then take a picture and send on WhatsApp, and then the specialist advises. So even the interns, don't you think that in a way this is affecting them? Because at the end of the day, if your supervisor is not there to see what you do on a daily, are we getting the right, are the interns getting the necessary skill, the necessary training from the specialists that are supposed to train them?
The unfortunate bit is that this cuts across. You'll agree with me that for most internships in most places, when you get in, once in a while or even on a number of occasions, your boss or your supervisor will leave and tell you, make a mistake, you'll see me. Then they leave and go and leave you in the office to run the work. So this cuts across, and of course it leaves a question on whether we are getting the right, we're getting the, you know, people being trained the right way. But I mean, you've seen cases where these guys are figuring out things on phone calls and video calls.
So now that we have seen something like that happening, how is this brain drain affecting Ugandans that especially throng government facilities? Because let's face it, a huge majority of Ugandans cannot afford private hospitals. So most of the health services they seek, they have to go and find them in government hospitals. Now, we understand that private hospitals, Jerome Paul said that you'll find that maybe a doctor is being paid 5 million by a private hospital, and in government they're earning about 3 or even less. So because that is where they feel like they're being compensated fairly. So how does this in the long term affect the patients? Imagine I am in Kabera Maido, I am maybe pregnant, and a pregnant mother is seeking maternal health services, and they go to the hospital and there is no obstetrician, there is no intern, or there is an intern but needs guidance from an obstetrician who is not even there. How are these patients being affected?
Well, you've put it right. You know, before I even get into how they're affected, on the private side, someone said you are always one bill away, one medical bill away in Uganda to poverty. that if you go into a private hospital, they will bill you, and you get into, you know, you actually get into some financial depression at the time.
That was evidenced by COVID-19,
exactly.
where people we thought were doing well,
they were also, you know,
now
suffering from the same,
yes.
struggling with paying these bills. So when you look at the kind of situation we are in, takes us back to our rather public hospitals, like you're saying. How are patients, you know, being affected by the same? You know, you look at even the public hospitals within the central region, before we even go far-fetched, you get to realize that they lack a lot. There is a lot to desire when it comes to our health sector. Look at the beds. There are hospitals that actually lack, you know, these beds. We've seen hospitals that lack, let's say, medication. So even before we even look at how, you know, the patients are affected, you do realize that these doctors at times feel like they're in position of doing their work, but there is nothing to support them to push what they are doing or to push their profession going forward. So in the long run, it is affecting the quality of medication we receive as a country. Because if you are an expecting mother, you're going to the hospital, and let's say, for example, you're not in position to push, and it needs a C-section. Trust me, then it's going to be a big problem, especially in our public hospitals. First of all, most of them don't operate in the night, and then those who operate in the night are, you know, are catering for, of course, situations like mothers that are expectant, and there is a certain fee you have to pay to access these services still, because it's overnight, and these are nurses that are working, that is off their working duties. Then also, you do realize that it becomes very difficult for me as a Ugandan who is going to this public hospital to get, let's say, quality medication, simply because the doctor is not going to fully work on me with a happy mind. And you know, when someone is stressed over something, the chances are they are going to push their frustration onto you.
Right.
I can only imagine if a doctor who has spent 2 months without earning anything, or it's an intern who has actually been deployed for duty, and they have no allowances whatsoever, there is no lunch for them. This particular person has personal needs that they are not able to meet simply because they do not have anything on their accounts. Then there is no way they are going to give their all onto a patient who is dying. And we've seen this kind of scenarios whereby Ugandans are crying out to government, even on media or even in the news, that, well, we are at this hospital, but the quality of services is wanting, regardless of the fact that it's actually a government hospital. But, well, at times we rarely understand the point where these doctors are coming from. This is a person who has actually maybe had 1 meal a day, and he's supposed to come and deliver, you know, so he's actually supposed to come and deliver professionally simply because he chose this as a passion. But but in the long run, you get to realize that as a human being, once responsibility step in, you're no longer going to be feeding on the passion. It is supposed to be paying for you. So when you look at the fact that the state under which our medical situation is, you realize that it affects all of us. It is actually going to push us into going to private hospitals, and if you can't accommodate, you know, you can't afford the prices, you're losing loved ones, or your medical situation becomes more complicated and worse. Because we've seen cases whereby if something started small, as a small, you know, medical issue, or let's say a small illness, turning into something big because someone could not afford it at the initial stages and put an end to it. So the more it develops, the more costly it becomes for a patient or for a Ugandan. So this is something that we really need to look into, because the more we see our doctors going out of the country, we are losing quality, you know, to other countries, because there are situations whereby you realize that maybe if we had these special doctors or specialists in given fields, that is in the medical, you know, in the medical world, you realize that maybe we wouldn't be recording a number of deaths in given areas. But simply because we only have very few who are only limited to given hospitals, and if I talk limited hospitals, you realize it's private hospitals because they can't afford them. Now, for example, when you look at, there's a hospital that is actually specialized to deal with people with bones, that is around Chisubi, as you're heading to Entebbe, Kosu. So when you look at that kind of situation, if someone in, let's say someone deep in Chisoro wants to access Kosu, how long are they going to be in the hospital if, for example, they do not have,
have you been to Kosu?
You know,
you will sit the whole day and still not be worked upon.
Because, you know, you get to realize there are lots of patients coming in, you know.
One of the effects, yes. But so, also, sorry to cut you short, Sonko, I believe much as we are suffering with brain drain, we need to, as we look at, as we go through maybe the effects, let's first take a look at some of the causes, because in my own thinking, most people that join the health sector join out of the desire to save lives.
True.
It's very few people that are going to go, yes, it's the passion. It's very few people that are going to join the health sector with a mindset of, I am going to make money.
Are there people who even join the health sector to make money? Because first of all, let's look at the grueling hours they go through to study, right from secondary school, by the way, when you're doing PCB, physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology. We all know that is not a walk in the park.
Right.
And now you go to university, doctors, those people sleep the least hours while at university studying. I don't think anyone would go through that only to make money.
Right.
No.
So this leads me and leaves us with the sole reason being that they are doing this passionately. They'd love to save lives. You will agree with me that even in a workplace, one of the things that could demotivate you is the working environment. If you walked into the UBC studio and you had only one camera to work with and you're 3 people, you would be demotivated.
Yes.
You had no microphone to use and probably you're sharing, you would be demotivated. If you are moving early mornings, for example, and you don't have means of transport, say you're not being catered for, it's demotivating. So when we go back down to these doctors, look at our healthcare system. Look at how many facilities do we have that have what it takes to keep especially the specialists in the country. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm seeing a Ugandan die of cancer, and probably if we had a particular machine, we would save this person's life, but we are not able to. That alone is very traumatizing. You see how a lawyer is traumatized by losing a case. When a doctor loses a patient, that is their worst day.
They actually say it is more traumatizing to them to lose a patient sometimes than even the family itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at times there is a patient who's, when you look at a patient who's recovering steadily and you feel you can save them,
as in,
you know?
also you've put in the work,
Exactly.
you have been taking care of, catering to them, and then you lose them. And sometimes maybe you lose them because of something small that is not available at the facility.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying right now, when we look at brain drain, we need to go back and revisit if everything has been put in place. Yes, the money element plays a key part, but do they have even the facilities that are going to enable them, you know, perform properly? If I want to be a neurosurgeon, how many facilities in Uganda can I work for and put my skill? There's also underutilization, and put my skill, put my passion in that hospital. We need to look at some of these things, because I'm going to go to Kenya, I'm going to go to India because they have these facilities, because they have what it takes to make sure that lives are saved. They're also, in a way, trying to save themselves from the mental health issue of losing patients, and they have to deal with those demons every night.
In January, when Makerere University had its graduation, I was honored to have a conversation with the best student from the medical from the medical faculty. And when she told me she's now doing her internship, and what she wants to be is to be a neurosurgeon. And I asked her, so after your training, are you going to practice in Uganda? She said, honestly, I got into this, and the passion I have for this is because I have witnessed people that wanted a certain service but could not access it locally because they couldn't afford it. But then she said, most of my friends or people that I've gone to school with before have decided to leave the country because even if they really want to serve, sometimes they feel underutilized because we do, in most cases you'll find that, let's say, public facilities do not have the necessary equipment they need to carry out certain surgeries. And for a surgeon who knows, I have the skill, I have the passion, I want to do this, I have the drive, you're going to find that some of them are going to decide to, you know what, let me go elsewhere where I can maximize my full potential. But also, when it comes to the facility, the stuff that is missing in hospitals, Chantal, away from the equipment, what else is not readily available in especially most of our public facilities?
Even just medical supplies. First, put aside the equipment. Talk about medicine. Have you heard about issues, especially in those far-reaching districts? Talk about Rakai. Talk about Chiwale. Deep inside there, you realize that sometimes some of these patients will have to move from Rakai, Chotera, wherever, come to Masaka, go to Mbarara to get treatment from those national referral hospitals that could be having the medicine they need. So also medical supplies are not enough. But also, think about it like this. Let me just give you, I was reading a report by the Equal Opportunities Commission, and this report says that government hospitals have only 4% of the required health specialists to improve the quality of care, of course, and also curb deaths, among other issues that are happening in there. So out of 8,272 specialists that are required in the country for a specific time, we only have 307 specialists that are posted in different government hospitals. We're talking about 8,272, but we only have 307 posted in the different facilities. What does that show you? It shows you that there is a gap that needs to be filled, a huge gap. That means at one time I was having a conversation with the new president of Uganda Medical Association, that is Herbert Luswata, and he mentioned that a doctor has a maximum, especially surgeons, has a maximum of surgeries they should be going for in a day, but they do way and beyond they should be doing. Imagine someone who started doing surgeries at 6 in the morning, or even 5, or even 3 in the morning, and still that very same day, they are still going into different theater rooms.
You know the effects of that? That is where we get cases of cotton being forgotten in women's uteruses.
People get tired.
Because people are tired.
Yes. So that alone is enough to show you that it's not motivating to work in such an environment. At the end of the day, this doctor, much as they are qualified, they will need assistance, and that is enough to show you that the reasons as to why we have this problem prevailing in our system.
Also, speaking to some doctors, I've heard of cases where the specialist is not there, but there is an emergency. Now, the intern who is not ready to do a certain surgery has to make a call there and then of, do we go in or do we not go in to save this life? Maybe let's say it's a pregnant woman and you have a risk of losing either mother and child or both. So you have to make a judgment call. Do we go in now because the specialist is not picking their call, or they are not coming?
And it's not in your jurisdiction to actually get into that room.
But exactly, but I've had cases of where interns have had to do this to save a life. And in cases where the intern could not make that judgment call, then lives or a life is lost. But also where they say that sometimes you make this judgment call when the specialist is there and even the interns are there, but they have an equipment that they don't have. So they have to go bare knuckles, for lack of a better word, to save a life. Yet they say, if we had this, like you go to some facilities and they don't have simple things like gloves. But we all know that a doctor needs gloves before touching a patient. And how much are gloves?
You know, there was actually even a picture that was trending where a medical doctor in a hospital was actually using the drip bottle to actually take water. So that clearly showed you the quality of, the quality of medical facilities we have in the country and the kind of situation they work under, which is very terrible.
And we know that the government has done its best to ensure that we have medical facilities spread across the country. As we speak right now, we have, Chantal gave us the numbers, we have many medical health centers, 3 and even 4, and this was done to actually bring down, to bring the service, the medical service, down to the people. That if you have malaria and you're in Masaka, you don't really, let's say in a certain division in Masaka, you don't need to go to Masaka Referral Hospital to get treatment for malaria. You can get that service from your home. If you're an expecting mother, you do not have to go to Mulago Hospital, yet you can go to KCCA Hospital nearby to have your baby delivered. And we commend government for doing this. But as we say that, there is a lot left to be desired and something needs to be done. And as we make our parting shots, I would like for either of us to share what ways the government can make sure that we curb this medical brain drain in the country.
Let's work on,
each of us has
let's work on, first let's work on, the salaries of these particular medical doctors and the medical interns. But the most important part is, the salaries reflecting on time, or the allowances reflecting on time. Because there is also a worry of not getting the money, but also the delay. So if it delays, it becomes really worse. If it comes, but still less, that can as well be worked upon.
So
because,
salaries.
The salaries is something very serious to work upon.
And it's been raised as one of the major factors.
Yes.
Chantal?
Motivation is very important, and it goes way beyond salary, especially for these people that are doing work out of passion. So let's have at least good environments and what they require to deliver on their duties, so that they do not feel like they are going to be inadequate. It all starts with the mind. So let's make available what they need at the very least to perform in their roles, so that that's enough motivation for someone to stick around. As the salary also increases, probably they would grow and get to construct a private facility or something like that. But let's keep them around. Let's motivate them so that they stick to the country. Yeah.
And as we close, I have a sad comment from a viewer who says, my 19-year-old daughter has just passed on because the biggest hospital in Fort Portal has referred us to a private hospital, and the reason they gave was that they didn't have equipment. Unfortunately, my daughter didn't make it in time. We are sorry for your loss. And this one says, good morning, this is Mike from Namwongo. To me, there is no way our health facilities shall be good with good services. Reason being, there is a lot of corruption and politicizing over everything. And he says that most of our members of parliament are corrupt, and they're just about embezzlement. They don't care about the needs of their people. Well, those are some of the comments we got from you, our viewers, and thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. This is Good Morning Uganda. We'll be right back.
Of the day on UBC. was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.